Thank you so much for joining me. I am just catching up because despite my best efforts, I am still getting to my stuff late, even though I did pregame today. So, hello, how are folks doing today? So, I am trying to find the cards that I pregamed because I had a reading right after I did the pregame. So, I am trying to find the card because it is it's an interesting card this week. It's dire, but it's surprisingly not. So, hey, so welcome and thank you so much for joining me, folks. Hi, good morning. I see that we've got some of our regulars showing up. I pre-gamed my cards last week, and then I had a reading right after I pre-gamed my cards, so I'm now having to fish for my deck through my deck to find my cards. So thank you so much for bearing with me. For anybody new who's joining or who will be watching this later, I'm Diana Rachel. I am the voice behind The Spirited Witch, Practical Living for Spooky People. I'm the author of Urban Magic and Hex Twisting Counter Magic Spells for the Irritated Witch. And I do these community tarot readings. So these are a one-card community draw for the whole community. And while they can be predictive, they are mostly a way of talking about community building and advice for the week. And one of the reasons I'm really trying to find this card to actually show the camera is because it is one of the, here we are, found it. This one is actually one of the more important cards about community in the tarot, in my opinion. So I use Tarot of the Spirit, and I use it because it actually seems to speak magic the way I do it, even though the person who designed it created it for herself as a very Kabbalic tarot. I'm kind of understand Kabbalah, but it's not something I'm really that interested in making a lifetime study of because I'm an animist, and that's basically a system outside of Kabbalah altogether. Because animism isn't really a system, it is a way of being that's kind of like Schrodinger's religion. It is or it's not. It just depends on the person carrying it. So it's from Tarot of the Spirit, who Pamela Eakins. This is the book that comes with it. And this is not these are the meanings of the card one by one book. This is here are some deep meditations to do. So you just feel that card. And I have been working my way over it, but it's one of those where it takes years. So we've got folks here this morning. I have my tea because unfortunately I'm having to take a break from caffeine. I grieve this deeply. And so the card that I pulled for this week is the Nadir. So 5 of Earth inverted. Now, in a Coleman Smith Rider-Waite tarot, what that is that's a pretty dire card. We can do share screen. So maybe I can do that. I'm going to do a share screen. So I'm just going to look up the Rider-Waite online really quick. So, because this one it's 8 of Pentacles. I always forget the numbers. Like, I freely admit that if I read with the Marseille style tarot, so the Marseille style tarots are a French style where they will show you the symbols and the numbers, but there's no images for any context whatsoever. I am lost with those. I can read the energy, but it takes me longer, which is weird because I have no problem reading playing cards intuitively, but Marseille tarots, I have trouble reading intuitively. I think there may be a key to be unlocked, or that they may be the reason people to tell you to like take it with you like a pet for weeks at a time. Or yes, I'm going to allow. Okay, so why is it? All right. My computer's doing weird things. Hopefully, I didn't just turn off the whole life. No, I did not. So thank you for being very patient with me today. And it is just preventing me from doing things I need to be doing. That is super annoying, but this is why I keep a Vivaldi browser as a backup on here. So for folks that are kind of research nerds, this is just completely random and nothing to do with anything else. The Vivaldi browser is a really, really good one, and it is phenomenal. I don't have ADHD. I'm just a notes nerd, and it is fantastic for me tracking notes and research. So, and since Substack is preventing me from using Chrome for finding this, No, this isn't Mercury retrograde. This is just I had a very busy weekend and I'm a little wiped and punching the wrong buttons. So, hi. All right. So typically this is a pretty dire looking card in the Rider-Waite Coleman Smith. It is basically two people walking past a church and there's an implication of being unhoused. So there's another one where it's also like the unhoused card in tarot where you see somebody giving a donation, and I think the old school introduction to it, like I think that like what Waite actually wrote about it was alms dispensed with justice, which looking back on that very definition of that card, as in the needing help, basically you're going to need help is phrased in a really weirdly judgmental way where okay, you're going to get help, but you need to deserve it just the right amount or something. And what is that? That's odd. That's bizarre. So, but that was also, I think that was written, he wrote these books during the Victorian era. So that would be very, very, very Victorian. Okay, wait a minute. Oh, no wonder I looked at the wrong card. So it's five of earth, five of coins, and not right now, browser. Damn it. So, okay, five of coins, because like the one that I got just looked entirely too industrious for what we're trying to do here. Five of coins, not 85. So thank you again for bearing with. Here we go. On good old Pinterest, you can always find the thing. Or no, that just took me to eBay. Darn it. Here it is. Okay. So now I can hit screen share and show you. So thank you for your patience with me as I push the buttons and things get weird. Select a tab to share. And do that one. Okay. So this right here, you kind of see somebody like this is just a dire image. Um, so you've got the kid on the crutches and the person, and they're walking, and it looks like they're walking in snow past a church, which always raises the question for the churches that don't help. If you're already yelling at everybody, they're going to hell. Why aren't you actually helping people so they don't feel the need to go there? But there it is. So that's kind of, no, I'm not ending the live video. So there we go. So in this card, it's definitely more abstract. Also, it's inverted. And with tarot, an inverted card can mean, it means the opposite. Sometimes it means it's this but softened. Sometimes it means something else altogether, and everything is about context. So the context that I am reading in every week is, what does the community need to know to navigate this week? What do we need to know? What do we need to know to do our community building? What do we need to know that we can act on in small, accessible ways at home? Well, when you've got this card where it's the nadir, and nadir is also a mathematical term for the lowest point something can reach mathematically. I'm assuming before you shoot through the other side of the earth, I really don't know how that works. But for this, because it's inverted, it's the Minnesotan phrase comes to mind, could be worse. So this is one of those weeks where, we're collectively looking at the US gas prices are as high as $4. And I know people that live in the UK and other places, it's always been like the equivalent of $12 a gallon. So you guys just sort of figure it out and manage. But for us, this is a shock to the system. And this is not my first rodeo with $4 gas, although the last time I was making $12 an hour, so it cost me more to go to work than to work for a while. And that's happening to a lot of people now too. And right now, what I'm seeing the advice of here is, especially in the States, for most of us, it's summer, which means there's more free stuff to do. There's more free stuff accessible. It's easier to forage food if you know how to do it right. Yeah, 2009, it was $4 a gallon. Yeah. It was also got that high. God, when did I have that job? In 2005 2004, 2005, it got that bad too, where it was $4 a gallon, and it was $12 an hour, and then it went down, and then it went up, and there's a reason I still have a thing for driving tiny cars and hybrids, and I will sock back cash just to buy a used hybrid or, one of the in 2009, I wasn't driving an EV yet. I had a very privileged period of my life where I was an electric vehicle driver, and the amount it raised my electric bill was only like $75 a month as opposed to the 2 to 300 I had been spending on gas alone. Plus plus the only maintenance the car needed was tire rotation and brake checks cuz I mean, the downside is once the battery was gone, it was gone, and they're replacing that was basically buying a new car or leasing a new car. And it had limited range. Like, I was never a Tesla driver. And I got to tell you, from living in the Bay, I kind of knew how things were going to go down with Tesla now because Tesla drivers had the worst reputations and Tesla had to have their own car chargers. They didn't have a car charger that worked with the other chargers. And so you would go to Walgreens and see a Tesla charger next to a charge point charger that was like a generic for everybody's car. And the charge point charger would be fine, but the Tesla charger always got vandalized and broken and cut. And that was because of the way a lot of the Tesla drivers behaved. So this new generation of setting fire to the dealerships just seems like a natural evolution to me. Not that I'm advocating this because I'm on camera, but also just people's behavior had consequences, whether they connected it or not. Be decent to people. The roads aren't just for you. That's all I'm saying there. But it was actually, oddly for my home, a massive money saver. And, people bank on the environmental superiority part, but that's not actually true. Like, you're still extracting metal from the earth. It's still a really, building a car is an unhealthy process with a lot of byproducts, no matter what kind of car it is. And EVs have that same issue. But if you were in an economic place to get one, you had even more economic benefit from it. And I'm kind of disappointed that we haven't really worked harder to make those accessible just for that reason alone. I mean, it is a power grid complication. Nothing's easy. Anyway, this is a weird digression for me. This is what happens when I'm not allowed to have caffeine. So looking at the nadir inverted, we are looking at okay, what can we do to ease the burden on ourselves? What can we do? But it's also saying, as much as we worry about things being worse, they're not worse now. They're not worse yet. And I did also pregame the 3-card draw for the Patreon, and I will give a little bit of a spoiler here for my Patreon members. Is it actually looks like we're getting this card, the could be worse, we haven't hit rock bottom yet card, because there are going to be some global things happening that make things a little bit better. It looks like that strait that's blocked is going to be opened up, which means things will be 6 weeks late instead of 2 months late. But we are looking at a serious supply chain shortage coming up pretty soon. So this is not a time to hoard, but it is a time to, like, if you need garbage bags, buy like a couple extra boxes of garbage bags. If you are in a place to pick up things for your local food shelf, like diapers, women's products, cooking oil, these are things that food shelves are always a little too short of, that may be some of the things affected. So bring a few extra as you're able. Bring it, if you are someone who runs a community organization, like I ran a Doctor Who meetup for about 5 years, and this was during the 2009 recession that I was running that meetup. And I was living in Minneapolis at the time, and the food shelves were constantly going empty within 3 days. Like, they would open up on Monday, they'd be empty on Wednesday. So I started running a food drive as part of attending the meetup. Like, it was in a pub at the time, and it was in a public space, and no one was charged to go. But for the people that had the extra money to go and buy a few beers, they could buy a couple less beers and bring in some fresh canned food. And that was something that I was regularly bringing in to one of the local food shelves. And that was a key part of anchoring that meetup in the community with that service as it at it too. So for the folks that just joined us, we have the card for the week is the Five of Earth, the Nadir inverted. So if you're familiar with the Rider-Waite Coleman Smith Tarot, the Five of Coins is usually the one where it's a kid on crutches and a woman walking through snow past a church. And like the Arthur Edward Waite version, like the tagline on it was what was I think it was just like tough times and poverty, because I'm getting it mixed up with the different one where there's the person with their hand out and they're getting a donation, and that's a different card in the suit. Um, Clearly, I'm not much for memorizing things by number. So because it is inverted, it's a yes, this is bad, but it could be worse, and it has been worse. So the community question, because my question is always, what does the community need to know? What can they do with this? What are actionable things we can do? And I think that I'm going to actually draw a couple cards, because when things are this unstable, when they are teetering like this, usually having a little extra information about which way to go. So this is not something I normally do. I'm just getting a feeling I should today. So the general voice, Two of Earth, cause and effect. So that is just being careful just to think through your impacts right now and look at, if I do this, what is the most likely thing to happen? So, if I am in a position to donate to a food shelf, what is likely to happen? If I need to go use a food shelf, I'm going to be fed. Fed is best. My kids are going to be fed. Fed is best. Temperance. So, and the mountain inverted is right now we are in a position where slight changes of habits, subtle changes of habits will actually help us right now. Because temperance, so this would be the Two of Earth, Two of Coins. And so this is okay, what can I put out there? Followed by temperance. Temperance is about managing wants versus needs. Yes, it can be a sobriety card. It can be a healing card. It is simply saying, evaluate your resources and use them with a little more caution. So one of the steps that we're taking at my home is we're trying to reduce food waste. One of our main vegetable sources is my unmowed yard right now. Is for whatever reason, we have a lot of edible plants that cropped up that, yellow dock cooks pretty well. It's actually great for sweetening a stew, and we have a ton of yellow dock. I have mugwort for tea if I need it. I have evening primrose that is cropping up that can be used for a lot of different nutrients. So we have that, I've been pulling up dandelion leaves and throwing them in my morning smoothies because sometimes the fruit's expensive. So these are some of the things that we're doing. And also, most of my personal hobbies revolve around recycling, upcycling, taking things that are byproducts rather than going to the craft store and buying new stuff as much as possible. So just things where I am like doing things to keep them out of the landfill that are also low cost, stuff like this. And then the mountain inverted, Eight of Earth inverted. The mountain I swear, in every divination system is very consistently about major obstacles and things we have to overcome and things we're building. And this means that right now, a lot of the things that are making us feel super, super pressed, they can be alleviated. They can't be resolved completely. Like the healthcare system, that needs just magical intervention. Some of the human rights needs a lot of intervention, but the things for our day-to-day lives, there are things we still have the power to do, so we're not completely pressed, so we're not completely oppressed, so that we actually do have some options. So that's what I've got for today. I'm going to be hopping over to my Patreon for my Patreon members and the 3-card tarot. A reminder, I am available for bookings. I actually have plenty open through the end of June right now. So just, hop on the link if you want to. And thank you for spending the time with me. So stay magical, everyone, and I will see you soon.